A huge winter storm left much of the U.S. paralyzed. Hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses lost power, highways and roads closed, flights delayed or canceled. Millions of people were affected. It was the worst winter storm in many parts of the country in decades, stretching about 1,300 miles, 2,000 kilometers, all the way from Kansas to Delaware.
Barreling across the country, with more than 70 million Americans under winter weather alerts,
promising the heaviest snowfall for some in a decade.
Several cities and states in its path declared states of emergency, and many are still digging out. But the snow was just the start, and I'll explain why. Let me show you the storm's footprint, moving in real time, starting in the Midwest, going all the way east, pummeling everything in its way with ice and snow. Over the weekend, millions of people were under blizzard warnings in parts of Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri. Some cities, like St. Joseph, Missouri, clocked 16 inches, 40 centimeters of snow. Topeka, Kansas, 14 inches, or 36 centimeters. And that's in less than 24 hours. Nobody living in these places has seen snow like this in decades. And Kansas City kind of got hit twice.
This has the potential to be one of the most significant storms in Kansas City's history.
It's so thick. All of this, for what it's worth, fell in the span of less than 24 hours, roughly 18 hours yesterday. Basically started Sunday morning, wrapped up by Sunday night.
Kansas City got about 11 inches, or 28 centimeters of snow, one of the highest one-day totals in its records. But that was on top of the freezing rain it got the day before. The Kansas City International Airport actually had to shut down altogether on Saturday to give crews time to deal with all that snow and ice.
They just landed, and it's kind of a matter of where are they going to go from here. For most of them, they're going to be stuck here because the road conditions are so unfavorable.
Those roads, snow-covered and treacherous, right across the Midwest.
During the storm, it was so bad, especially with the freezing rain, that the state of Kansas sent a statewide wireless emergency alert that basically said, hey, even the emergency crews can't reach you because the roads are so bad. Stay at home no matter what.
And as the storm moved east, it not only blanketed Kansas and Missouri, but Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Kentucky.
This police dashcam video in Ohio capturing the moment a speeding car smacked into a tow truck responding to a call, luckily avoiding two people standing near the truck.
Driving was a nightmare on major highways, and police in several states warned drivers to stay off the road so that plows could try to keep up with the pace of the storm. But just look at this chain reaction pileup in Illinois, reported by WGN News.
Interstate 70 has been closed most of the day downstate because of a 40-vehicle accident.
Roadways were very treacherous. We saw a number of car accidents that were avoidable if people had just stayed off the roads.
And all that snow and ice, too, accumulated not only on roads and runways, but on power lines, on tree branches, and those blizzard conditions. We're talking winds up to 50 miles an hour, 80 kilometers an hour. They brought down those heavy branches, trees, and power lines, causing mass power outages across the central and southern U.S. Schools and government offices closed down, commuter trains stopped running, more than 6,000 flights were canceled. Governors in several states in the storm's path, Kansas, Kentucky, Arkansas, West Virginia, and Virginia, they all declared states of emergency.
We're really just asking residents to please, if you do not need to go out, stay home. Government's out. The schools are all out.
In Richmond, Central Virginia, many people are still under a boil water advisory because the power went out at a water treatment plant. And then there were a bunch of cascading failures. So the city is trucking water out to those who need it. But even that has been complicated by this storm.
We have to be mindful of icy conditions, right? Any sort of sleet, any other wet conditions or dangerous conditions on the road. So we did have to slow down our operation yesterday to ensure we were able to get the supply there safely.
And the mix of snow and ice that really made this storm so devastating.
The farther north you were, the more snow you got. The farther south, more of that mixing. And part of the reason for that was something called a warm nose.
Hard to believe so much chaos could be caused by something called a warm nose, but it is absolutely responsible for creating this messy, icy mix. So the way it happened, freezing cold air that normally swirls around the Arctic broke out of its normal pattern and brought those frigid polar temperatures much further south than normal, right down to the middle of the US. And that happens every so often. It usually plunges the region into a deep freeze, but here's where things got messy. That frigid air ran smack into warm air, loaded with moisture that you can see here, coming up from the Gulf of Mexico.
That moisture is what fueled the storm to begin with, whether it be the heavy snow, any of the precipitation. So it really was a waterlogged system. It kind of sucked in a little bit of warm air at the mid-levels from the Gulf of Mexico. And that warm air at the mid-levels allowed precipitation to melt on the way down, fall as rain in some areas, but then refreeze in the ground as that freezing rain or that icing.
Check out parts of Virginia.
I'm going to show you some ice that's not on the roads. This is just in a parking lot, but still just as slippery, just as slick, and just as hard to see.
And this cocktail of cold air meeting warm air can create even wilder weather than that.
That warm air at the mid-levels actually caused the air to rise a little bit more than normal in the storm clouds, and that produced thunderstorms even though it was snowing.
Yeah, thunderstorms.
Was that enough? That would have. Okay, that was the flat. Right, yes, it was. See, I told you.
Right there.
We just had it again. That's number 7. That's number 7. Thunder snow here in Kansas City now. We've had a couple of bolts. So this is the energy coming up again from the south.
And right now, everyone is bracing for more. Much of the U.S. is facing below average temperatures for the next several days. So that ice is sticking around.
Behind the storm, so much cold air poured south that now we're below freezing and there's nowhere to really melt that snow.
We have about 24 hours before it gets so cold that the salt is not going to work, so we need as much time and as much road to do as much work as possible.
And with another storm forecast to hit from Texas to the East Coast this week, the race is on to recover and get everything moving again before they get clobbered once again.